Representative, so these issues, I know you know them well. You care about them. Do you support the administration's plan to give out this $12 billion in aid?
Well, not the way that Chuck Schumer just described it, but interesting how he's already become partisan about this. But anyway, look, I think the much better solution is to resolve these trade disputes to be able to open up more markets. And that's what farmers do want. They want trade, not aid, as they tell me. I was home last week and I'm back home again this week, and I'll hear the same thing. But we do have serious trade disputes with these countries, including China, where China simply does not play by the rules. As you know, Dana, through the years, administration, Republican and Democrat alike, have pressured China unsuccessfully to open up their markets more, to change some of their behaviors that have led to the theft of U.S. intellectual property, which allows them to leapfrog us in terms of technology and so on. So there are legitimate issues here, but the better resolution of this is not an aid package or this $12 billion that's being talked about. But in the short term, that may be necessary, but we've really got to resolve some of these issues with Canada, Mexico, the EU, and China.
When you say we need to resolve them, we've heard farmers say, we understand that the president has our best interests in mind. We can be patient for a while, but they may be running out of patience. I'm curious about, when do you think this needs to be resolved by? Is there some sort of deadline in your mind? And also, how is the administration going to decide who gets the aid?
Yeah, well, I think you're absolutely right, by the way, in terms of the attitude of a lot of the farmers I represent. They get it, that it's not reciprocal, it's not fair now, particularly with China, and that we do need to do something different. But, their patience is being tested because they're seeing prices go down to the point that it's tough to justify putting a crop in the ground next year. So I do think it's time for us to move. There are two opportunities right away as I see it. One is with Mexico and Canada. We are very close, as I understand it, to an agreement with Mexico on NAFTA. Mexico buys a lot of our products. And then with Canada, I think they are more likely to come along more quickly if we resolve things with Mexico. I was with the Canadian ambassador last night talking about some of the remaining issues there, which are really perennial issues we've had with the Canadians on things like their dairy program. And I think we can resolve some of these relatively quickly. So those are maybe the things we can do in the short term. The longer term would be what you work out with Europe. Autos is one thing the president's concerned about. We have a 2.5% tariff on their stuff coming in. They have a 10% tariff on our cars going there. That would seem to be one we could come up with a good negotiated settlement. Yeah. And then the longer term one, I think, Dana, is going to be China. That one's tough because these are longstanding concerns, not just about classic tariff issues, but non-tariff barriers also. Right,
especially on the intellectual property. Let me ask you one last question. You're going to be at the hearing where Secretary Pompeo is testifying. I'm sure, well, he's already given some remarks, an opening statement about the position on Crimea. He's talking about North Korea, Russia, and China. What do you want to hear him say about Russia in particular?
Well, I think we need a clear and consistent approach to Russia. I think Secretary Pompeo will say that. I think he'll articulate it well. He always does. He understands the need for us to remember Crimea, that was illegally annexed, to help stand with Ukraine. One of the ironies of all this, debate back and forth on Russia is this administration has taken tough stands with regard to issues that, Russia disagrees with. One is, just this past week, we provided $200 million in military assistance to the Ukrainians so they can defend themselves. This is training dollars, some equipment dollars. We also provided them lethal defensive weapons to push back against the Russian threat. So
it would have been good for them to have them years ago. I mean, I'm sure that's what the Ukrainians think.
It sure would have. And, I worked with the Obama administration to try to get those weapons for years, and they were not willing to do it. So we are standing with Ukrainians right now. I'm going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the importance of the NATO alliance. It is an important opportunity for us to restate, our interest in keeping these countries together, because the Russians would like to divide us. Yeah. So I think it'll be an opportunity for Secretary Pompeo to clarify maybe some things that came out of Helsinki, and I believe he'll be consistent and clear as he always is.
I'm sure he is, and that's at 3:15. We'll have it for you live. Senator Portman, thank you.
Thanks, Dana.